Hello and welcome to Trade Talks Unlocking the Experience, episode 34. And this one, I have a very special guest who is not only a friend, I worked with him professionally, but he's also a mentor of mine. And he is an instructor with Reach Drying Academy. And if you haven't guessed it, it's none other than David Hodge. So I won't go on anymore. I'll just welcome him and welcome to the show, David.
Thank you for having me, Kayla. It's nice to see you as always.
Of
I could
course.
say, wait, what was your name again?
That would not be
Thanks
off.
for having me. The
And it says my name on the bottom of the screen.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
That would
It was just
definitely
all a means to set you up. I've known him for a long time. No, she hasn't.
right. Hey, we're coming on a decade, right? So that's like crazy to say
Oh,
that a whole decade.
10
Um,
years. Wow.
isn't that crazy? I remember the first one of the first times I met you was actually at an instructors meeting in Washington, I think, or Oregon or something.
Vancouver. Yeah,
Yeah,
Vancouver.
Vancouver. Yeah,
At
it
the
was one
Heath,
of the first times.
probably.
Yep, at the Heathman. That's one of the first times I ever really physically got to
In
meet
it.
you. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're regretting it every day since then, right? Yeah.
No. No, honestly, not at all. I've learned a lot from you and even the Reeds family, honestly. It's been great and I'm so fortunate to have our paths cross again, not only here, but at the experience and other collaborative efforts, right? We see a lot in the industry and we agree about a
Yeah.
lot, we talk about a lot. And I think it's just kind of been full circle, right? And this
Right.
is why, when you said, "Hey, I'd love to speak," like I submitted some proposals and we talked about them and we narrowed it down. So before we jump into your topic, not many people know how you got here into this industry. So how did you get here?
What's a long story, but in short, a family friend that my mother actually grew up with, he owned a carpet cleaning company, and I lived in Dalton, Georgia, when I was in high school. So I did a lot of work in flooring in my high school years. But after graduation, I moved up here to Tennessee from Georgia and started working for the family friend. I'd known him. I grew up with his kids. Matter of fact, I'm married to his daughter now. But I started working from him cleaning carpet, and just I took my very first IICRC course in 1997, I think it was, with Joe Dobbins, CCT and OCT class. And in that class, I was like, you know what? That's what I want to do. Now things have changed a little bit, but I worked my way up the field from carpet, upholstery, duct cleaning into water damage, fire, trauma, storm, all of that. Project managing, estimating, operations officer before I actually became an instructor in 2012. And then full time instructing in 2017, I moved to Phoenix to take a position there. I taught there for 3 years before I accepted a position at Reach Drying Academy as an instructor there. And I've been teaching with Reach ever since. Outside of that, got into the fire service, the fire department, which is one of the big things that I'm going to be discussing. Not my career, but has a lot to do with that firefighting EMT stuff for about 9 years. And then I just currently got back onto a volunteer department here to kind of help fire training because I'm really going to focus in on that aspect of things. But over 28 years, that's about the gist of it, all compiled into a little nutshell.
Well, I would definitely
Whole lot.
say it's full circle, right? You met your wife,
Yeah.
you guys have a beautiful family. You've gone to, Phoenix, you've been to Georgia, now you guys are back home in Tennessee where you guys belong and you're able to continue your career, which is really cool. I
Yes.
think we're in an industry that allows you to actually move around and stay in the same
Oh, yeah.
industry, right? Like we're very
And
fortunate for
for the
that.
same company. That's one thing. Staying with the same company was critical. So Jeremy Reeds is amazing. I'll just say that him and his entire team. My move was completely personal, um, some family things, but Jeremy allowing me to stay here and keep working for him has allowed me to really start concentrating on training on the fire side. So being with the same company in the same industry is huge. I'm getting old, Kayla. Old. Not as
Age
old
is
as
just a
you,
number.
but I'm getting.
Not as old as Jeremy. Hey, age is just a number, but I will definitely say too, it also allows you to branch out with the community that you're in as well and spread awareness. I think that's the other thing is we work in an industry that really people don't really know who we are until they absolutely need our services, right? Like
Right.
majority of people, if you were to walk up to them and say, "What's the restoration and cleaning industry?" Like they'd be like, like they may say like, oh, Molly maids for cleaning or something like that, but they're not going to say, like any of our educators or any of our franchises or independents. They just don't know. And so for you to be able to go and focus on fireside, you're bridging a gap that needs to be bridged within your community, which is extremely important.
I hope so. I hope so.
I think they have the right person to do it, if I will say so myself, which,
I,
Jeremy and the team are great, and you have a lot of experience. One thing that people may not know, fun fact about David and I, we went to the same college, and our degrees are actually in the same thing, which is emergency management and public safety. I have a master's in that, and David has a bachelor's.
you went to GCU?
Yeah,
I had no clue.
yeah,
Well, there's a little fun fact about me. I went to the same college as Kayla. So,
yeah. We're alumni. Look
you
at
say
that.
you have a master's?
I do. I have a bachelor's in criminal science and a master's in emergency management and public safety.
You just threw that in there. I know. I know. Well, congratulations. That is amazing. I know how hard it is to do that stuff. So very cool. Very good.
Yeah, thank
Doesn't
you.
it doesn't mean your title. Don't count on me. Oh, master. That's awesome.
Speak to me with authority,
I'm
please.
very proud of you.
Thank
You can
you.
now speak with much authority. Why you even talk? I should be interviewing you. Like,
You
oh,
know, yeah, I think
very
and I think with us sharing that education background and the emphasis on that shows kind of where we took the initiative to see where maybe there's gaps and how we can learn from other industries. And that's really what pushed me to go back to school, quite frankly. And you know who actually told me we shared the alumni status was your lovely wife, Lisa. She shared that you went to GCU as well, which is really cool, and if you guys haven't caught on, I do talk to David's wife.
yeah.
So our
Yeah.
friendship does run a little deep here.
Yes. And whatever she tells you, you need to keep under wraps here. Okay.
I'll
And
just
that's
share
so
that. That's the only thing I'll share. Okay. Other than that, she says David's a devoted husband, father, and educator to our industry.
did she say that or you just throw it? Just kidding.
No, but really, I think, we show that we're always evolving and wanting to learn, which I think is extremely important, right? Like, yes, you're an instructor, but you're also a student, right? You're constantly
Always.
learning. And I think
Always.
when we were talking about your topic for the experience, it was like, yeah, you're gonna have a session, but you're also gonna learn from those who are sitting there. And, while we're talking about this, can you kind of talk about what your topic is and why you want to speak about this at the experience?
Um, I've had a lot of questions, and this is nothing to the ANSI standards or anything, but I've had a lot of questions about things like a lot of safety missing out of the standards and stuff. And the ISCRC for a while has been trying to move the standards away from safety aspects since safety is typically it's regulated. So you've got federal regulations, state regulations, and the different country regulations that workers all have to be aware of.
Mhm.
So they wanted to focus the standards, or at least when I was part of the board and stuff, they wanted to focus standards on processes and develop a separate safety and health field guides and stuff like that. And I got questions like, "Oh, well, the standard says this; it's going to mess us up. The standard doesn't say this," and that's fine. Standards are not designed to cover every single thing. You only got a few pages. That's that's why the ISRC developed the disclaimer. Follow the standard, but if it doesn't meet laws and stuff like that, you deviate off the standard and follow laws. So I mean, it's understood that the standards are not going to be able to cover everything. And this is the S700 is a first edition, and in many cases, your first editions may have things that may not be applicable that it'll get changed. But even then, the standards are not set in stone and law. So we already have things that have been written, like with the NFPA. NFPA is the end all be all for fire in the United States, at least. Matter of fact, if you have OSHA regulations and stuff that deal with fire protection or sprinkler systems, extinguishers, anything firefighting, they do what's called an incorporated by reference from the NFPA. So you've already got the NFPA standards for many things, which technically would supersede our standard in a lot of cases. So trying to tell people, don't try not to get too worked up if one of our standards, the ISCRC standards, doesn't contain certain things. I'm going to give you information of other credible sourcing that's actually, I don't want to say the word's not better than the ISC. I just want to provide other sourcing that might be more, that might substantiate your positions much better if you are in a position where you're being questioned about certain things through the NFPA, through studies of higher universities. And I'm going to specifically key in on stuff that deals with safety and health aspects of what's produced on a fire, the things that our industry misses, that's already required by law. Put the standards to the side. What's required by regulations? It doesn't matter what standards state, either if it's the NFPA or ISCRC. If there's a federal authority that's already had a position on something, that's what we have to follow. So I want to show people, where to access the information. I want to show them the different types of things that I'm talking about as far as production of certain chemicals or whatever on the safety and health side, and how to actually find out what those are. And then other steps, but I'm trying not to state too much in here to give things away.
Yeah. Well, I would say there's a hierarchy, right? Like that's the other thing is there is a hierarchy, and that's really the IICRC does a great job at having a basis of standard of care, right? That's what you should be doing is
fundamentals.
right, fundamentals. And I think a lot of times people, to your point, get a little wrapped up or a little concerned about things, but that's where other stuff comes into place. Federal
Right.
regulation, state, even some counties have their own regulation or building code. There's layers to this. And I think that's where you and I
Cool.
had discussed that the standard, let's be real too, it's its first edition, right? And we know with every single edition, it gets better. And so for the questions and feedback that are being received, they're great because it's only going to make that next edition that much better. It's an ever evolving, changing process. And that's kind of what we need to remember as industry professionals. If something's not covered, ask fellow professionals what they utilize, right? Because there is a hierarchy.
Yeah, and if this is where the public review process is so critical. If there's things that may not be accurate or may be obsolete or what, it's incumbent upon those that are in the industry when those come out for public review to take part in it. But always remember, if you're going to take part in something, you need to have ethical and correct justification to back up a position. Just providing what we think something means doesn't work. And sometimes, even providing your justification may not necessarily mean what you want gets put in certain things, but you still got to voice your concerns.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to take part in all of this stuff. And if we don't take part, then we end up, I guess I'm not saying anybody that's watching this does this, but if we don't take part, then we kind of start getting armchair critiquers that don't take part in stuff, but in the same token, they just start screaming out loud about issues that they have. And that's what we don't want to do. Just my perspective.
Yeah, and I would definitely say too, the importance of public review is huge, and I think we can't have the mindset of, oh, somebody else is going to point that out. No, take the initiative
Right.
to say and, share and express your feelings, thoughts, concerns, cite any regulation that you're aware of so that it can be brought into a standard if it's needed. And I think, that's with anything in the industry, whether it's a standard certification or just educational content or even an article, make sure you're using other references because I think it helps make the case of us professionals and what we're trying to push, right? It's okay to go outside of the industry and find what we need. And so we saw the year start with the catastrophic fires in California, which in fact they have additional fires burning right now. And this is very timely because, they're only going to happen more frequently. There's more people in the world. We're having more natural disasters. So we need to better educate ourselves and take advantage of those who know what to look for and how to search for things. And most
Yes.
importantly, this is an opportunity to ask questions, right? I think
Yep.
that's the other thing is yes, you're sharing valuable resources, how to find things, how to utilize your resources, but also for those who are attending, ask questions. David will take your questions, right? In the session or outside of the session, 100%.
Well, at least in the session. Outside the session, I'm going to go hide. I'm just
It's okay. I have his phone number. You can just ask me for
yeah.
it.
I if I'm going to leave enough time for try to answer as many questions as possible. And there, I always say in classes, there ain't no stupid questions. There's only stupid people. And if you show up to listen to me, then I know you're not stupid. Just,
Well, I would definitely say
that's
there's no
kind
bad
of important.
question, right? There's no bad question though either, right?
No, ask questions. I will say this: since the ISCRC standards are starting to move away from safety, this is going to be incumbent upon us to do our own research when it comes to safety. And always remember, there was something that was brought up about a statement in the standard that stated stuff to the effect that there's no known association with things on fire damages in occupational diseases on cold fire scenes, which is listed within the standard. A lack of a known association does not indicate a lack of a problem. And the biggest issue is I don't know of a single study ever done by any organization, NIOSH, EPA, CDC, nobody. I don't know of a single study for any area of our industry, health and safety wise, for anything, much less fire. Having the lack of association does not indicate a lack of a problem. And since the standard doesn't address certain things, we want to try to bring it, okay, ISCRC is not going to be dealing with safety. Let's bring it in from a different standpoint. We're going to bring in other things, not even firefighting. I use things in my class from chimney sweeps, studies from them. So we're going to try to show different aspects of that. And if something is not covered within that, you guys have a question, hey, what about if it's timely, I'll answer as much of that stuff as possible and give you guys links and different places where you can go to access the information. I just want to make sure that people aren't just, using their standards for toilet paper. Standards are good. Standards have merit. If they're wrong, veer off of them. If they're not, follow them. But it's incumbent upon you to know that there are many other sources other than the standards. I'll be providing a lot of that for you.
Well, I would definitely say too, let's look at the industry as a whole. There's not a standard for everything either. So in
Yeah.
the instance that there's not a standard, what are we utilizing? So this is no different, right? And again, to go back to these are great standards, right? They
Yeah.
provide a great fundamental base, but also the bare minimum of what you should be doing, right? And that's how we start to elevate our industry, right? And it's upon the person has to take it upon themselves to look outside, even if it's another industry, right? And I think you're going to do a really great job at that. We've had a lot of conversations over the last 10 years, and we often do talk about utilizing resources outside of our industry because we're such a unique industry that we have to go and look for other things to kind of implement them in our industry to provide a safer space or maybe have future standards or whatever the case may be. And so, this is very timely. I think it's very important for people to understand that, safety is also regulated. So it's a little bit of a different beast outside of standards. And so for us as an industry, it does make sense for them not to cover safety, right? One, safety changes faster than and standards are updated. So that also is another thing that you guys need to be cognizant of. I know we are, but that's something that we have to stay on top of as well, right? And this is no different. It's just an opportunity to understand where credible and reliable resources come from and who you should utilize, which is extremely important. Um, and it's going to evolve from the time that you sit in on this session. Things may change. You know what I mean? It's just that's the way it works.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, until organizations like NIOSH or CDC, until the Department of Labor, until they actually produce studies for our industry, it's kind of better for organizations like the ISCRC to not delve a lot into the safety side of things, because things can sometimes be put arbitrarily without any type of backing. So we have references we can look at for the time being. But I'm with you in certain. while I want the ICRC to do some with safety, I'm kind of apprehensive about organizations producing too much about it since it is a regulated thing. This is not like extracting sewage out of carpet.
Right.
These things we're talking about are written in law. So we have to be very careful about what we state, how we state them in a manner to make sure people are going to be safe, but also not getting them into trouble. And I'm trying to be very careful about wording that I use because I
Yeah.
don't want people to take even something from this video and say, well, David said this, and just run off the right field with it. So
Exactly. A liability, right? Too. I think if you're going against any law or regulation, it's a liability as well. And if we people need to stay in the lane that they are specializing in, which is not a bad thing. I think that also helps us advance as an industry, right? Because it's regulated, that's a good thing for us. We're able to utilize those resources and utilize our industry standards, right? We're not just getting all of our information from one spot, which is we're very fortunate, if I'm being quite honest, and it also keeps us up to date with any changes in law or regulation. And to your point, until there's any case studies done, we need to look outside of our industry to see what we can
correct.
implement and do better at, quite frankly.
It's outside our industry, but similar in fashion.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
oftentimes that's all the sourcing that we have. It's all the results that we have. So I got a whole lot of them I can produce. So,
And I would definitely say, our industry is just unique as a whole. Like we're not
oh
construction,
yeah,
like, it's just different. And so like we have to utilize and leverage things that are very similar and implement them to fit our industry as they need. So, I think it's important, use that optimism that you have and,
yeah,
ask questions. If there's a law or regulation, how does it pertain to our industry? It may not say restoration or cleaning or whatever the case may be, but reach out to people and ask them how it affects your business. That's the best thing you could do.
yeah. Or like I do, and some of the others that I know in this industry, if it is a regulation, and I don't know exactly what OSHA meant by it, you write a letter and you mail it to the federal offices of OSHA. They respond to you in writing. That creates what's called the standards interpretation. If you get a standards interpretation, if you ever go to court, that's what they go by. They'll look at law first, and if law doesn't answer, then they'll look at law's interpretation of a law. And it just takes people time sitting down and actually doing it and writing it, and then waiting the year or two to get the results back from OSHA. They do finally respond. Research, research. It's going to be upon each individual person. But I will say, you start doing this, you can end up looking like me. I'm only 25. And you see,
Stop it.
so I'm actually 43 and 36 months for those that don't know. Okay.
36 months of kids. If you don't know, David loves to tell dad jokes.
Yes.
He's
Thanks.
hilarious. He's very funny. But I will say, we've talked about quite a bit, but what does it mean for you to speak at the experience about this specific topic?
Um, I, I, I love speaking there tremendously just because in many aspects, the people that are there, oftentimes this might be the only chance they get to hear something like this. Not that I'm anybody special, but if I have information that nobody else is producing, which I don't know, but if I have information that nobody else is producing, and there's 100 people sitting there, that information that I'm producing, number one, might be the only time that they ever hear something like this. Number two, it could have been the information that they needed to justify why they did something on a job, which could then indirectly affect their budget on fires. Um, uh, and just the networking, you get to meet new people. People like, man, I'm getting into this. I've done a couple fires, but I don't think I've been doing them right. I've heard that a ton throughout my career. I'm like, well, first off, the biggest thing is to just breathe. So I get to talk to new people, network with new people, and then get to see them at the trade show. And, granted, as an ISCRC approved instructor, I'm not allowed to endorse products in my classes. But when I'm at a trade show and I'm not with the ISCRC, if somebody asks me, hey, if you're in here, who might you go see about, cleaning agents for this or that? I say, well, you might go look at this company for this thing. These people have good oxidizers if you're using for certain. So I'm able to give people a little bit more tips and tricks to help them in their business too. even outside of the speaking arrangements if they attend the trade shows. But they got to be at the trade shows and go around and talk to the people to get what I'm telling them. So
Yeah.
it's just a good networking event that I've loved for as long as I've been there. Which is not long, but I've been there quite a few. Well,
Yeah.
I think the first one I was at, I think it was called Connections back then. I'm
Yeah.
not exactly. It's a long time since my first one.
Yeah, it was
But
connections. It was connections once upon a time and then switched over to the experience. So yeah, you're telling everybody how long you've been here, even though you did earlier in the episode.
my age, yeah, I think
You're
that was
only
also.
25.
I think that was also the first connect. That connections might have also been the first AMRT class ever done. Was that
Wow.
2001, 2002? I don't know. Rachel Adams taught the class down there in Clearwater. Right after that convention, we did all of our work inside the hotel rooms. That's the first time I met Jeff Bishop. God rest his soul. I'll miss that
Yeah.
man. He's a lot of the reason why we have the stuff in our file. Although I might have disagreed with him on several things, the guy's a pioneer and loved being around him. You just had to watch what you say, or else he'd correct you. Most people think I'm bad at correcting grammar. Oh no, that man was the ultimate grammar Nazi when it came to that thing. It's a good dude. I miss him the first time I met him there. So I think being around him, being around Joe Dobbins, probably is what made me as big of a researcher as I am today. If I don't know something, I cannot stand not knowing it, and I will search and search and search until I find the answer. So a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be giving in speeches is a lot of hours of reading, a lot of hours. If
Yeah.
I can take the legwork off of that for people and give them the information that they need, good.
Yeah, and that's what
I'm
it's
glad.
all about too. I would definitely
What
say,
about those conventions?
well, and I would definitely say too, you witnessed that, right? There was other people who researched before you that provided you
Oh
with
yeah,
necessity. And I think
yeah.
you're paying it forward, right? That means somebody sitting
Already.
there, they're gonna do the same thing one day, right? And it's just a great cycle to see happen, right? And that's one thing that I really appreciate is like in this industry, if you don't know it and you go and ask somebody, if they don't know it, they know somebody who does, right?
And we know
And
somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody.
exactly,
And if we all
exactly.
don't know it, then hey, this is a new thing that the industry has.
Right.
You've
And I
just
think
discovered something new.
exactly, sometimes we volunteer ourselves for case studies or research, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's what helps make the industry better. So before we
Right.
wrap up, I always like for my guests to share a fun fact about themselves that many may not know as my cat jumps onto the back of my seat. So sorry about that, but hey, this is life.
That's
She
all
said,
right.
"Hey, I want to join the party." But
Awesome.
what is one fun fact about you that people may not know? Um, and I'll let you take it from here, and then I'll add if I feel like it. But what's one fun fact that you'd like to share with everybody?
Fun fact. Man, that is a hard one because I've not really had a real extravagant life. I mean, I did say I was 25. That's not a fun fact. It's more of a lie. Um, let's see. Fun fact. I in my classes, operational rope rescue is one of my favorite classes that I ever took in my entire career. I rappelled off of a 75-foot rock bluff in training to pull a guy into a Stokes basket and come face to face with a mobile working meth lab cut out in the side of a rock bluff. Um, that's a little bit of a fun fact. It was instant move back up to the top of the hill, though. Other than that, I don't know. I'm naturally dark haired, and I naturally have hair. As you say, I ultimately can get tan. Yeah, even though I'm redheaded and freckles, I can tan if I get sunburnt enough. It's weird. I got to get burned about 15 times, but after that 15 times, son, you're talking about Rico Suave.
You're
so
talking about
super,
golden brown
super
David
tan.
Hodge over there.
Right.
Like, who
That's
is this
exactly
guy?
right.
That's
Because as
actually
of right now, if I take my shirt off, it's going to be like blinding.
like my farmer's tan gets, I do have a farmer's tan, but I would definitely say that's a Interesting fact, quite frankly, especially if people don't really know your background. And like, I just have so many questions on the side of a rock. Like, what? Like, how did that
Yeah.
even function? I mean, that took some planning. Just curiosity. And I think that's very interesting because not any other person you walk up to is going to be able to say they stumbled upon that, right?
I have seen a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot. That's probably the biggest fun fact. I've seen a lot of stuff. I'll just say that. I
Yeah.
mean, from restoration side to firefighting, the EMT side, I've experienced a lot of things and I've kept my sanity. You want to talk about a fact? God help me. I kept my sanity this entire time.
I was
So
gonna say it takes somebody special, honestly, to go through, those sides of things, whether it's in restoration. We are a very special people. We have a servant heart and mind, and that's very special. We are dealing with people most times on the worst days of their life, no different than a first responder. It's just in a different light. Um,
emergency management, public safety.
exactly. Hence why we went to school for that, which is really cool. We are alumni of the same school, which is really cool. Um, is there anything else you want to share before we say farewell to everybody until September?
No, just I implore everybody, if you can, try to be at the experience. If it's your first time, you'll love it. A lot of interaction. You get to meet a lot of people in multiple industries, not only just restoration, but cleaning, inspections, business, marketing. The trade shows are amazing. You get to see people like Sean Bisayon. You want to talk about learning about cleaning? Sean's amazing to talk to. There's a lot of people to network with and a lot of learning that could be had on there. Um, Great time. So, and if you enjoy Vegas, it's also in Vegas too. So
Yeah, it gives you a
you
reason to go to Vegas, right? I think
yes.
that's the other thing is
I,
it does give
me
you.
personally, I'm of a fan, but I do like going to these things. Do like seeing people I haven't seen in a long time. Just a good networking time, great networking time.
It
So,
really
and you
is.
get to see Kayla. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
what
hey,
else?
maybe it's a blessing or a curse depending on what you think, but you will see me. You will be prepared. Just prepare yourself to be sick of me. You'll see me every single day of the show, and hear my voice every single day as well. But if
It's
you
all
want to
right.
learn more about, David and about his session, he is speaking on Thursday from 10:20 to 11:20 a.m. And that's on the 4th. And I'll be in that session and I'll be bouncing in and out. I can't wait to see what you share. And as always, thank you all for joining, and we will see you on the next episode of Trade Talks Unlocking the Experience. Take care.